wanted to get back to at least doing our news from the future because I am lucky enough to live in the UK. So I can give you the headlines from 5 hours into America's future. I'm going to be really quick today just to jump back in with everything. Also, I'm trying some new systems. So just again, bear with me. Um, yeah, so the best thing to do to follow along is certainly follow me from wherever you're watching, but also you can visit standwithsophie.com to join my squad. And that's the best way to stay in touch, but also to get some tools and survival kits and guides and things for the events that are happening right now. It's crazy to me that like I built this a year ago and I have action cards that you can print out. I have survival guides. I have shopping lists and go bag requirements and all kind of really secure chats and communications. And it, it's it's something I tried to plan for what's happening right now a year ago. And I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. So a few weeks ago to see what happened in Charlotte in my own city and to know like, wow, okay, uh, I wasn't just being, you know, paranoid or anything. Like, we see the writing on the wall. Black women especially, listen to us, please. We know what's going on. I think we're in a age where we're beyond the gaslighting and the ability for the right to gaslight us. So especially looking at what just happened in Minneapolis, the fact that they're literally trying to tell us that this woman was some kind of, schmerist, and it's just ridiculous. So without further ado, let's jump into the headlines of today and just chit chat about what's going on and what to expect, uh, especially what's coming up in this next week here. So, all right, the first one I want to get into is that following this initial schmurder, sorry, TikTok, um, this is the kind of stuff that's still happening. We just had two more shootings in Oregon. It sounds like those people are going to be okay, but it still begs the question: um, when will enough be enough? When will the people who are supporting this kind of behavior start to see that it's unlawful, that there are people who are actually losing their lives or being harmed, even beyond, being held in captivity when they're American citizens or when they, have TPAs and different things. So it's just getting ridiculous. Um, the next headline, of course, we just want to give you an update on the response to the shooting in Minneapolis. Uh, it's insane because it's echoing so much of what happened after, George Floyd. And so, there's protests, there's already marches and vigils and all kinds of things to commemorate Miss Good, who passed away from the gentleman pew pewing her right in the face for daring and deigning to drive away from a person who was not visibly a law enforcement official trying to enter her vehicle, literally pulling on her door. So it's insane what's happening. I've seen people get um, gassed like right in the face. So the protests are peaceful, but they are, you know, they're I can't imagine that they're not going to escalate. I've seen pictures of protests from Columbia, South Carolina, and LA, and all over the country. So hopefully, if you've watched me before, I know I took a bit of a break, but if you've watched me before, like I've always felt that protesting, it's great to see. It's great to see it. It's great to see that so many people uh, don't want to feel helpless and want to do something. But it's just sad that, like, what does it really do? What does it really do? Like, it's for the history books, it's good to show that you stood on the right side of things, that you, again, wanted to do something, and that there was this great groundswell of a response to what's happening and what's been going on. But what does it do? I feel like, it, in all honesty, when the steamroller has started, back when we could have voted for this not to happen, that was the time to do something. That was the time to vote for Kamala Harris. That was the time to, you know, get on the phone and call people and knock on doors and all that stuff. I just think it's too late at this point. I feel like, not only are we in a situation where this man is full on schmictator, we're there. We're in the Fourth Reich, my friends. Like there's just, there's no pulling back from this. Like once the boulder is going down the hill, you know, it what do we do? So again, that's why I built standwithsophie.com because I cannot fathom that this is it. All we have is protesting. So, get ready. Make sure you have your go bags. Make sure you know what to do. Know your Second Amendment rights, your Fifth Amendment rights. Just know your rights. um, the sad thing is, it's not like your rights are really going to be a huge shield for you in this day and age. But it's good to know what, in the aftermath of a situation, you have the legality to do, or that justice will be on your side. So, again, stay strong, my friends. Let's go on to the next headline. So, we see that Trump is actually starting to feel some ramifications. The right are actually starting to vote against him. But what does it do? Because Trump vetoes it. He vetoed, there was a bill to try and stop him from making any further actions in Venezuela. I think there's a bill to even push forward with Obamacare for another 3 years. I think he's already vetoed the first one. I'm not too sure what's going on with the next ones. But again, what is there to do? What is there to do at this point? Especially with the Republicans now saying, oh, let me vote with the Democrats on these measures because he's circumventing Congress altogether. I feel like all these are tests. The Venezuela thing, even all the way back to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, all these things were little tests to see just how much he could do, and he did them, and there was no consequence. So, this is what we have to deal with now. I think it's just a matter of survival at this point. How do we move forward? So, again, standwithsophie.com for some actionable tools that you can use to stay ready, stay prepared, not be scared, just to be ready. Especially again, if you live in my hometown of Charlotte and things popped off, especially if you live in Minneapolis. I'm actually seeing people visiting my site from Venezuela, which is another reason I kind of wanted to jump back in the saddle on this, because I mean, people need help knowing how to get through this. And we only really can do it together. So that's another key fundamental aspect of standwithsophie.com is the community features. I want to build it and grow it so that we can, notify each other when there are, law enforcement officials. Because even the thing in Oregon that just happened where people got shot, it wasn't ICE. It was, Border Patrol in Oregon, Border Patrol in Oregon. But still, it's all the same mechanism. It's all the same entity. It's all the same militaristic, federalized organizations doing these things. And so, something to look out for. So even with this very hopeful headline that Trump is suffering defections from the Republicans, let's not be fooled. The norms that used to exist of these things actually making a difference, we've blown past those, my dear friends. So, sorry, let's try to look towards the future, what we can do in the aftermath of all this, what our, next few years post Trump are going to look like, because I just feel like the ship has sailed when it comes to stopping this train, this runaway train. Supreme Court ruling is threatening to weaken the Voting Rights Act, which is going to drastically put a drop in Black representation in Congress. Um, so just another, underrated headline that I think needs some attention because there's been such a war against Black people ever since Trump got into office. And so, just want to keep an eye on this. I'll be monitoring what goes on from this. Sounds like the vote already happened, and so we'll start to see what kind of voting rights restrictions and protections are rolled back. Um, but it's just yet another thing that is going to allow gerrymandering. It's going to allow redistricting, especially in these red states. And so, it's one thing to see, like, uh, Jasmine Crockett. What's her? Is that it? Jasmine Crockett? It doesn't sound right, but Jasmine Crockett. It's one thing to see her be such a voice and advocate for her district in Texas. But then, to see just how surreptitious these Palantir Project 2025, 2026 people can be to literally undermine even those voices is insane. So again, we'll keep an eye on this one. I thought this was an interesting story about America's health, especially in light of Maha and all the vaccine rollbacks. The fact that, of course, yet again, the red states, the ones that take all the money, are the least healthy, the ones that are going to need Medicare the most and Medicaid the most, the ones that are going to tax our, emergency systems the most, the ones that are going to take the most money from California and all these green, healthy areas, blue areas. Of course, they're the lowest ranking when it comes to health. So I just thought that was hilarious. Moving on to international news, Iran is starting to see some inner turmoil. So their leadership is starting to come under fire. Literally, it looks like as they're suffering protests. Um, so again, just something to keep an eye on because clearly Iran thinks that they are in a war with America, even if America is not acknowledging that per se. So it's something um, to note that there's this whole Iran thinks that we're at war while they're encroaching on a civil war of their own, but America's trying to tighten their grasp on this hemisphere while still trying to appease, Schmizrael. Um, so it's just interesting the intricacies that Trump has kind of gotten us all into, unwittingly, wittingly, who knows. And then finally, in international news, the U.S. has halted assistance to Somalia. So they already closed down USA, which has killed millions of people probably at this point. Now we're like specifically targeting our food aid to Somalia. And gee, I wonder why. Gee, I wonder why, after all the issues with Minneapolis and their Somali residents coming under fire for the few Somalis who have defrauded some of their assistance programs. It's and who knows what that's even, or the real extent to what that even is, considering the lies and outright fabrications that have been coming out around that. So it's one thing to see how one group of people can be affected by, you know, the hatred and vitriol that's stoked by a larger community. But it's another thing to see how that actually affects, that community worldwide. So it's sad that it sounds like there were bad actors when it came to how the Somali fraud was occurring with the daycares and autism centers and things in Minneapolis. But that is now making them this representation of all Somalis and Somalia proper. So it's just sad. It's really sad to see. But again, it's just we voted for this. I didn't vote for Trump, but we live in a democracy. This is what we voted for. So, unfortunately, here we are. This is what happens. And I want you to notice that all of the out of all the headlines today, this is the top news. What don't we see? What's missing? Okay, we got ESPN talking about Renee Nicole Good. Um, House renews ACA subsidies again. We'll see how long that lasts before it's vetoed. Um, let's go all the way down to a day ago. Uh, what don't we see? We're almost to 2 days ago. What's missing? I still don't see a single story about these Epstein files. 3 days ago. So job well done, Trump. He's officially gotten his uh, PDF file nature to not be the topic of discussion. I mean, so it just goes to show like all this stuff going on with ICE, all this stuff going on with Venezuela. Like they want it. They welcome this. You think again, that's another reason I feel like, you know, protesting is not necessarily the best way to go. Yeah, and I'm already kicked off TikTok, so there you go. But yeah, so it's just one of those things where, oh, let me see if I can fix it. I got 15 minutes in, Chris. Alrighty. Well, we tried, friends. But yeah, that's the headlines from the future. So just something to look out for. This is another reason I took a break because TikTok is ridiculous. And so there you have it. Goes to show. Anytime you just talk about the news, I'm literally just talking about the news and kicked off of TikTok. But yeah, so YouTube, Kick, Rumble, everywhere else you're watching. Um, enjoy your day. Try not to worry too much about what's going on. Visit standwithsophie.com for some real ways forward if you're looking for some help and you don't want to be scared. Don't worry about things. Just come get at me. But yeah, we'll see you guys maybe on Monday. We'll see if I can get my stream back up in time. Otherwise, it was nice chatting with you all. We'll catch you next week, maybe.